Today's video here on the channel is all about the MGPjr, the Kids Song Contest in Norway. Now this video was recorded before the rumors, and I am going to call it rumors because that is what it is. This video was recorded before the rumors of Norway potentially taking part in the Junior Eurovision again from 2025 onwards. So that's why there'll be no mention of that in this video, but I don't think it matters because this video is not about their participation in Junior Eurovision. This video is more about the upcoming possible changes to the MGPjr format. So I hope you enjoy it. I recently randomly came across an article from the Norwegian broadcaster NRK that I kind of wanted to touch upon on this channel because it is actually about the MGPjr, the Norwegian Kids Song Contest. And I wanted to touch upon it because I think it's an interesting topic. And I think it's an interesting topic because of national finals and song contests in general, in terms of how they haven't really evolved in the past couple of years. And NRK are actually trying to change that with the upcoming MGPjr. So we're gonna talk a little bit about that today. Now, before I get started, I just want to quickly sum up the history of MGPjr, I guess. If you've seen my video about the MGP Nordic, you'll already know these things. But NRK launched their junior MGP back in 2002 at the same time as the first MGP Nordic was announced. Of course, then in 2003, they went on to compete in the Junior Eurovision, and they did that for 3 years. And then, of course, after that, the original broadcasters behind the MGP Nordic, DR, NRK, and SVT, all decided to exit the Junior Eurovision and didn't take part from 2006 and onward. Now, like I said in my MGP Nordic video, NRK did continue with the MGPjr even after their participation in the Junior Eurovision ended. And it went on for 20 years, up until 2022, where they decided to take the 20 years as a good place to take a step back, evaluate a little bit, and look at how can they be making MGPjr moving forward. What can they kind of change? Already then, after the contest in 2002, they said that they were looking into maybe trying out a new format and they would take a year's break. Now, at this moment, it looks like it's going to be a 2-year break, but it does look like there is potential for MGPjr to be returning in 2025, and that's what this article is about. I'm going to read a little bit of the article and we're going to talk a little bit about it. For context, this is an article or a press release, I guess you can also call it, which NRK has put out for external production companies that may be interested in producing this new version of MGPjr, or who might have ideas to pitch to NRK for a new way of doing MGPjr. And what I'm going to be reading out is a Google translated version of the article, so apologies if there are a few mistakes in it. The article has the headline, NRK seeks new ideas for MGPjr. NRK is considering relaunching MGPjr in a new version adapted to our streaming services. We are now inviting the external industry to come up with proposals for further development of the program. One thing that is going to be present throughout the whole of this article is that they want to bring MGPjr into the streaming world. And I think that's one of the things that's really interesting, and one of the things that I like to touch upon in this video as well when talking about this, because while we have seen a few national finals go streaming only at the Eurovision Song Contest, it's not something we've seen a lot actually, and even with Junior Eurovision, where the demographics is definitely moving more and more away from traditional television, we aren't actually seeing a lot of these like national finals being held online instead of actually being like the typical Saturday show, but that might be changing. MGPjr has largely been an isolated event one Saturday a year. It's been virtually the same for 20 years and is in need of a renewal, especially in light of the event's declining attendance on TV. And I think that's no surprise. TV viewing is on the decline. There aren't as many people tuning in to watch television on a Saturday evening. People are getting more and more used to streaming, which also means that the idea of making this big televised event, like the incentive isn't as big there anymore, especially when you are dealing with a kids demographic. And this isn't unique to MGPjr, by the way. I think even here in Denmark with the MGP, they aren't getting the viewing numbers that they used to, despite the show still being fairly successful in Denmark. And you can look outside of Scandinavia as well. You can look at something like Junior Song Festival in the Netherlands. Like, those songs still have a presence in like the kids online universe, I guess you can say. But the Junior Song Festival itself is not being watched by as many kids as it was during its prime, like, you know, when the Junior Vision was first announced and was first running. But they do go on to say that MGPjr is still a very important brand for NRK, and they are looking for ideas for a new direction for the program from 2025 onwards. The ambition is that MGPjr will continue to have a great significance in children's lives and bring them to NRK Super's platforms for larger parts of the year than the current format has done, with NRK Super being the children's branch of NRK. Our streaming services must be the most important platform for publishing the project. I think it's interesting talking about how it's been very isolated for like one part of the year, because I think that's something that EBU and the Eurovision brand has really realized in the past couple of years, that, you know, having this once a year isolated event, that's just not how you do things anymore, and you need to keep your brand on top of people's minds all year throughout. And the EBU's focus on bringing more of the Eurovision online content and doing content throughout the year, something like the top 50s and all those things, that's very much a sign of what's going on here. I think that's what NRK is talking about as well here, is that people just have so much choice for content these days that they quickly forget something if it isn't top of mind. So publishing stuff on your social media throughout the year, that's definitely one way of keeping your project relevant. Now, I want to go a little bit into what they are actually talking about, because while they are looking for external partners, they do also mention some of the ideas that NRK are working with at the moment as to how they think MGPjr should look in the future. And I do like that they start off by saying that it is important to us that the format is perceived as new and fresh, not just a copy of previous talent shows. Which I think is a good step in the direction. They aren't trying to turn this into The Voice Kids. They do want this to still be its own unique thing. We envision a form of competitive reality show with multiple episodes spanning over a longer period of time and ending in a grand finale. We don't think docusoap or the documentary format are the right form for this program. And I think they're right about that, especially when we are talking about a kids television program, because I think you have to make it fun. If it takes itself too seriously, I just don't think kids will be turning in the same sort of way. And some people might watch this and say, well, I think they would, especially if they are a little bit older, but we actually get into that in the last part of the article, because I think that's very interesting. They talk about some of the values that they want to preserve from the original format. Stuff like they want children to express themselves and showcase their passion and talent, and they want to build community through shared cultural references in music that children like and sing along to. It ties them together. And I like that sentence, because I love the idea of that. The music from MGPjr should be songs that kids want to listen to, they want to sing along to, they want to listen to in their bedroom. Which I think that's always a good thing. Like, you aren't trying to make streaming music in MGPjr, you aren't trying to make songs that pop up in the top 50. You're trying to make songs and encourage kids to write songs about stuff that other kids are also interested in, that they can relate to. But I think what's mostly interesting is when they talk about the target audience, which they do have a target audience for MGPjr that they want to keep moving forward. And that is actually the 6 to 10-year-olds with their siblings and family. And I think that's very interesting, because when we look at the Junior Eurovision, I don't feel like that show has a very clear target audience. And I feel like it shifts very much from year to year. In Nice, we saw a very, I hate using the word childish, but I hope you get what I mean. You know, the idea of superheroes, the graphics, the colors, and something like Amir's performance, where we had a whole playground in the background of his performance. Like, that's very much like that fits into that target audience that NRK is talking about, the 6 to 10-year-olds. But then you look at something like Yerevan just the year previously, where it was a little bit more modern, it was a little bit more sleek, but it also felt like a contest that was more geared towards the tweens and the teens. So Junior Eurovision definitely has that target audience issue, I feel like, where depending on which country hosts the show, they have some different ideas of who the target audience may actually be, because you may have an idea of what the program targets in your own country. Some countries have a dedicated children's channel where they put the contest on, while others, they have the main channel and they put it on there, and it's, it's in a primetime slot and all these things. So it's very different, and I think that's one of the things that makes it very difficult for Junior Eurovision moving forward, is that it just needs that clear target audience, and it doesn't have that at the moment. While I think the 6 to 10 year olds, that makes perfect sense. I think it's good for the show to have a very clear target audience, and I think it's also very much in like the Scandinavian realm. I think that's how we look at these sort of programs. I'd say that the Danish MGP is probably the same target audience. But I get why a show like MGPjr and these sort of children's song contests might be a little dated at this point, because I think they're right. There hasn't been a lot of changes in the last couple of years. I mean, even if you look at the MGP in Denmark, the first show of these kinds. If you look at the contest in 2001, the first of its kind, and then you look at the contest from 2023, of course, the topics are a little different, and the way that they do the show is, I guess, a little different. I guess there are elements that have changed throughout the years, but at the end of the day, we still have these, like, a first round of, it used to be 10, now it's 8 songs, and then 3 songs progress to the super final. And that hasn't changed for many, many years. And I get why you don't necessarily want to ruin a format that works, but it does make me wonder, why aren't we seeing more of these changes? And do we need these sort of changes? Because I think we might actually do. The ratings may be alright at the moment, but I think every broadcaster would like to go even further, to have an even greater audience. And I do like the idea of maybe spanning the program over a longer period of time. Because if you look at something like The Voice Kids, for example, which has proven itself to be very popular amongst different countries all over Europe and all over the world for that matter, I think that format works because it is a longer format and you get to know the performers a little bit more. I think there are also a lot of fun elements that are currently part of the MGPjr experience that we don't really see as much on the screens that could possibly be used even more moving forward. I think if I was NRK and if I were to come up with a proposal for this, I think some of the things that they have worked on in previous years, such as implementing these sort of boot camps where the children not only get to know each other a little more, but they also get singing lessons, dance lessons, all these things. I think those should be even more incorporated in the final product. I think actually using this as a platform, not just to showcase talent, but also to give tips and tricks on how the kids watching could be better singers, better dancers, how they could be better at writing music. I think the project could be used for so much more. But it does take me back to that question that I keep having when thinking about this, and that is, why haven't we seen more changes? Why haven't we seen the song contest format evolve more during the last couple of years? And now I'm not only speaking children's song contest, now I'm speaking in even broader terms. For a long time, probably as long as I've had this channel, I've thought about that it would be fun to make the video called something like The Rise of the Online National Final. And the reason I haven't done it yet is that while we have had a few examples of it, I don't think we've seen nearly enough to really talk about it. And it is something that I do actually wonder, why is that the case? Why aren't more national finals going online? Why aren't more national finals utilizing social media and the streaming platforms to make something different? It is strange, isn't it, that while so many other things have evolved over the years, the format of a national final still remains largely the same. Of course, now I'm talking about the usual national final, the one with 10 to maybe 20, 30 acts and semifinals, no semifinals, these more traditional national finals. Of course, there have been others. I'm thinking something like 1 in 60, or Ukraine used to do a pretty good online national final for their Junior Eurovision selection where that was all done online. And of course there are more examples than that. I think I should have mentioned something like ESC set as well, of course, but I think you get the idea. We haven't seen a lot of examples of this, and I wonder, why is that the case? Is it because that these broadcasters are still scared of changing up the format, or do they just don't know how? I'm very interested to see what NRK will be doing with the MGPjr, and I'm very excited to see where this can take us, because while this may just be their kids song contest, something that isn't even being used for an international competition, maybe the format that they do end up creating for the MGPjr, maybe we can learn something from that. Maybe other broadcasters can actually learn something from that about how you can make national finals in the modern age. Because I think there are more and more countries who are opting out of the national final because it's expensive and you don't get the viewership that you used to. And I think that's a shame, because one of the things I love the most about the Eurovision Song Contest is discovering new music, is discovering new artists, and watching national finals. And yes, maybe a longer format wouldn't be as fun to watch if it didn't have English subtitles, but I'd be interested in still seeing new formats. I'd still be interested to see what you can do with the national final format. Because I do think it's the natural next step. The Eurovision has become more popular over the last couple of years, especially thanks to TikTok and other social media. And I feel like you cannot argue that the social media content that the EBU has been producing for the last couple of years, that does play a part in that. So I feel like the next natural step is to rethink the format. What does a song contest look like after the 2020s? I guess only time will tell, but it'll be interesting to see if the new MGPjr, which we'll hopefully see in 2025, will be at least part of the answer. But I know that's what I think. If anyone from NRK does happen to be watching this video, I do hope some of the ideas that I threw out would be something that you might be able to incorporate in it going forward. I'll keep looking out for more news on the upcoming MGPjr format, and I'll let you know when something new happens. But that is all for today, so thank you so much for watching this video. I do hope you found it interesting. I thought it was an interesting subject, so I just wanted to talk a little bit about it. Leave a like if you enjoyed, subscribe for more Neon Pavilion content, and then I'll hopefully see you guys for the next video. Take care.